Hola, estrellitas. This is Sol,
And this is Luna, and we are Chillonas.
pero badass. How clear it is in my mind. Mija, ya levántate. Vámonos. While rubbing my eyes, I get up from the warmth in my bed, brush my teeth. Thank God I slept in what I'm wearing today. The sun isn't even out yet. Throw on my overly sized Spartan hoodie. The three of us walk out into the breeze of a February morning. We drove an hour and a half. It felt longer. Good thing I didn't have to drive. Don't know what shape I will be on the way back. All I had was hope, though this hope was quite fragile, quite small. It existed, dimly. Hope that my mother was wrong. My brother and I stayed in silence. We arrived. My mother was right. His car was there. Betrayal was there. My father was still cheating on my mother. How clear it is in my mind that very day, 9 years ago today.
Ooh.
It's
Oh my God, it doesn't get any easier hearing that. And this is like the fourth, fifth time I've heard it.
compared to the first time you heard it.
Oh, the first time I heard it, sobbing, just sobbing. But it was nice because it was nice of you, like very courageous of you to share. It was very brave. And I think the reason why I cried so much is because for a long time I felt alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, as everybody does, like your own struggles, and you're like, oh, nobody else goes through kind of like that, the same situations. And it's because nobody talks about it.
It's crazy because I don't know where I got this courage to think, oh yeah, let me unravel my traumas right here in class.
In a room with strangers, because we were all strangers at that point still.
This is a poem legit that was written on the board. Like the prompt is written on the board talking about,
Hmm.
okay, this is your prompt today, right? Something that has to do with this. You have 5 minutes. And
Hmm.
in 5 minutes, that's what I wrote. That's what I decided to share with all these strangers in class. Only to find out that this one person hella crying in there would be my lifetime soulmate.
Literally, like right after that. Yo limpiándome mis mocos, going up to you, telling you how brave you were, and like, thank you for sharing. Yeah.
It's
And then I
crazy.
remember like, are you free? Yes. You want to go to the library with me?
Do you want to become my friend?
Sure.
It's crazy because, like, even when you came up to me after class, no, it wasn't even after class, it was during break that you came up to me and you were telling me, like, wow, like, thank you for sharing that. Like, I couldn't relate more. And I'm just like, I think I was crying too because I was just like, wow, like, really? And I think that's when it was like an instant click because you were like, yeah, like I totally know what you're talking about. I totally can understand you. Like I'm going, like I went through that, and I'm just like, really, like you did too, and then like right to the point, right? Very like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, my mom and my dad, yeah, you, yeah, me too. My mom and my dad. I was like, oh my god, and I felt
Hmm.
exactly what you felt,
Yeah.
where I didn't feel alone anymore because
Hmm.
that you're right. When we endure our traumas, our life situations, just everything, we always end up feeling like it's just us, it's by ourselves, it's we are alone,
Hmm.
only to find out that it's more common, unfortunately, than we even knew.
I think because you were able to share something so deeply, like so deeply connected to you, I think that's why it attracted me more to you and wanting to be able to talk to you and like go up to you and build up that courage because although I may seem like a social butterfly, I'm really not. Like I'm a social butterfly with people that I get close to and people that I connect with.
Yeah.
And so you being able to do that honestly really gave me confidence and gave me courage to want to be able to share something so similar because we went through our stories are like it's scary how like you lived on one side of the bay, I lived on the other side of the bay, and around the same time we were going through the same thing around the same ages. Like we are not the same age, but during the like that age we went
It's a
through the same
trip.
things and had
It's
to
a
pick
trip.
up the responsibilities.
Yeah. I'm the oldest of three, so it's like my brother, he was in a junior in high school at the time, and my sister was like in fifth grade. So it all happened, and oh man, it was very hard. It was very hard, and the way it all happened too was just like with this poem. The poem is that day that like we followed him to his mistress's house.
Wow.
And mind you, like my mom had already found out about my dad's affair since like a year prior, right? And she hired a private investigator.
That's so
Like
crazy.
my cousin helped her like figure out numbers and where she worked, all the like, you know, like
Wow.
FBI style, right? Like she went in on information.
That's insane.
And so my mom was willing to work on everything with my dad. And so supposedly my dad was too. But even like 6 months in, my dad was just like, it's happened a long time ago. Like, it's time to move on. We should be back to normal, blah, blah, blah. But only to find out he was still seeing her, he was still with her.
Oh my
So, of
gosh.
course, like a year after everything, you know, my mom was like, she had gone through counseling. She did her
Yeah.
work, like,
She
need to
did her
do.
part, puso de su parte, pues.
Hmm. And she knew my dad was still seeing her, so she prepared herself for it. Obviously we weren't there because I like, you know, we weren't at that stage like she was to prepare ourselves, because
Yeah.
I mean there was no work done on our end, right? For
It's a whole
us.
different ball game too, because
It.
for her, it's her husband of many, many
Mhm.
years. But for you
Mhm.
guys, I hate to say it and like I hate to put it in these terms, but for you guys, it was your idol.
Yes, yes it was. And unfortunately, my mom, you know, she wanted to include us. Like my brother missed school because she was like, "We're gonna go. We're gonna follow your dad."
Uh-huh.
And my best friend at the time drove us, so he wouldn't recognize the car.
Yeah.
And we drove an hour and a half. And I remember thinking like, "Damn, we're really following." And I'm just hoping, Luna, I'm just thinking, and I'm wishing like, please don't go where we think you're going. Please don't be there.
Mm.
Please tell me that you're not doing this still. And of course, hecho y dicho, like I estaba. And my dad's park was there, and then so my mom, I don't. This woman became Superwoman. I
Tiny
admire
women
my
in their
mom.
rage, man. Tiny women in a rage.
I
Yeah.
admire my mom for the strength she had to go up the stairs, knock on that door,
God, like gut
and
sinking everything. Oh my
and my dad
gosh.
opens the door. My dad opens the door, and he's like, se está acomodando el sweater, like he's putting on his sweater as he's walking out, closes the door behind him, right, and passes my mom down the stairs. But my
Mhm.
mom grabs the door and swings it open,
Yeah, she was ready to whoop
you
some
know, and
ass. I would have been too.
she fucking opened that door. That's when I went up the stairs, like to back up my mom, and I was yelling at
Yeah.
her. I honestly don't remember what I said. It was like, I know you're here to embarrass me. I know what you're here to do. And that was so stupid what she said, but whatever. And my mom came down, just that woman closed the door. My mom came down the stairs, and she told him, like, you're choosing to be with this slut instead of your family.
Yeah.
And his response was, es la única opción con la que me dejaron. This was the only option you all left me with. As in, not just my mother, as
Yeah.
in you all, as
Yeah.
us as this
Yeah.
family. And that really like
That
that shit
stayed with you.
that stuck. That stuck. And
It's
I
like if you could have it tattooed, you would. Honestly,
honestly, it
right?
is.
Yeah,
It really
because
is.
it's sad because there's things that like my dad has told me that I swear to you, it's like engraved in my
It's
heart.
fresh.
Yeah,
It's
and it's
fresh.
like every time you hear it, it's gut wrenching. It makes you angry. Like it
Mhm.
makes your blood boil.
Mhm.
And so for me, when I see him, those are like the things que
Yeah.
repiten en mi cabeza.
Yeah. And that was the last time my dad had been home. He ya no regresó. I said that was like that was
That
it.
was it.
And I think for like 2 weeks, ni sus luces. Like for 2 weeks, my dad.
Meanwhile, his kids are going through it.
My dad was just out of the picture. But it was one thing that my brother and I saw what happened, so we knew. But
Yeah.
the problem there was my little sister,
Mm.
where she didn't understand what was going on. So she was calling her dad every day, crying, wondering where he was and why he wouldn't answer. Called him on his birthday and he didn't answer. O sea, he forgot about the youngest one who didn't understand, you know?
Hmm. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for listening. And that's all, folks.
All right. Tune in next week. No, I'm just kidding. This is a heavy episode for us, and I'm really
I think we avoided like
yeah, but I'm really happy that you brought this up. So I really thank you for it for and for having the courage of sharing first and having to relive that. Thank you because I know it's not easy.
mm-mm, not at all. It's 10 years later, girl, and
Yeah. Yep.
it's still heartbreaking.
Hmm.
But
So I can remember like so vividly the day that my dad walked out on us. It was around the holidays, the day of Thanksgiving to be exact. So some background: my dad is a alcoholic. He'd been sober for around the same time that my sister had been alive, so about 11 years.
mm-hmm,
And so um, every Thanksgiving in the mornings we would spend it with my mom's family, and in the afternoons we would spend it with my dad. So this Thanksgiving, my aunt came. We had our dinner with her and her family. She came and went, and then it got around 7 o'clock at night, and my dad ni sus luces, like absolutely nothing. Llegaba, like le hablábamos, nada. We called his family to see if he was at their house. Absolutely nothing.
wow,
He wasn't there. Some of our uncles weren't even answering the phone at that point.
what the heck?
And so we were just like, what the fuck? Because me había dicho, oh, the day before was like, oh, y te alistas porque vamos a ir a la casa de tu abuela, like afterwards.
Mm,
So it was like, okay. So, we were waiting because we were going to have an early dinner with him. Y pues nada. And so I remember like putting everything away and then going upstairs, going to sleep. My mom went to sleep. My younger sister went to sleep. And I just started calling hospitals because at this point I was more than
really?
100 calls in. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, he relapsed. Like, there's no way. Like, my mind went to he had an accident or he relapsed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I was like, and he got pulled over and probably he's either sobering up in a hospital or he's in jail somewhere. So I started calling um, police departments. I started calling hospitals. Like, how can I get more information? Nada, nothing. Two,
How old
three
were you?
o'clock. I was 19. I had just
Oh
turned
wow.
19. And so um, my mom, I hear her because our rooms were really close together. So like around 3 in the morning, I hear my mom, I know where you are. This is what you're going to do to your kids. You're not even going to show up. She's like, how disrespectful of you. This is your house. You live here. This is where you need to come home to. I think she thought I was asleep.
Oh shit.
And she was like, you know, like she started going in, telling him, like, you've done this for years. So my dad's cheated on my mom for years.
And she
My mom,
knew.
she knew of it. She knew every single person that my dad had an affair with. My mom knew of them.
Oh wow.
And my mom was her own PI girl. My mom would show up to the places where they would frequent and she'd be sitting in the back just looking. How she had the guts for that? No idea.
She was her own PI.
Yeah. She
Mm-hmm.
she she knew everything about these people. And so this woman in specific, she knew everything about her. She knew where she worked. She knew where my dad met her, when my dad met her.
Mm-hmm.
She knew everything. And so going back to my mom leaving the voicemail, like my mom's like, you need to come home. Like your kids need you. So then my mom hangs up and I turn on the, like, I walk out of my room, I turn on the light and I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, tu papá yo sé dónde está. She's like, anda con una puta. Sorry. But yeah, that's what she
Uh-huh.
said. And I was like, no, like, what if my dad is like somewhere and we don't even know where he is? Like, I think I had my license at this point. So I was like, voy a ir a ver aunque sea aquí al Kaiser close by.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, there's no need for you to go. So then, te lo juro, yo creo ni dormí esa noche. And so the next morning, I got up super early, like got out of bed super early, went to go shower, got my little sister ready, and we went to my grandma's. My sister was 11 at this time too. And
Yeah.
so got up, went to my grandma's, and I'm like, Grandma, like, have you seen my dad? He's not answering. Like, I'm worried at this point. I'm like, no ha llegado aquí, no me eche mentiras, ha llegado, like, please, like, begging them.
Did you not
And my,
believe your mom?
no.
Oh, I see.
And my family was like, oh, not even making a big deal about it. My grandma was just like, va a aparecer, no te preocupes. And so, okay, like at this point, calling and calling still, okay? I'm about like 300 calls in. I remember because I remember vividly like the call log, and you know how it says like how many times you've called? Yeah,
Yep.
I remember the call log. And so finally around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the next day, he answers me. And I'm like holding back, cussing at him. And I'm like, where are you? Where have you been? Like, are you okay? He's like, ya voy para allá, no estés chingando. And I'm like, well, I'm not even at my house. Like, I'm at my grandma's house. I was like, they've been calling and looking for you. He's like, por qué fuiste y hiciste un drama allá? Like,
What
getting me in trouble.
the heck?
And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you were missing. Like, do you not understand? Is that not processing with you? Like, you were missing. Hello. And he was like, no, like regañándome. He was like, no, tú no tenías que andar yendo allá, andar contando mis cosas. Esto es privado, esto es de la casa. Again, la ropa sucia se lava en casa. Like, all that.
He went
And
in.
then, yeah, and so I was like, pues te estoy esperando, like, ¿a qué hora vas a llegar? Ya allí llego en un rato, vengo de San Francisco. And I was like, okay. So I was crying at that point. Like I got off the phone, I was crying because he was acting like nothing and I was getting in trouble for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then my uncle was grilling one of my dad's brothers and he was like, why are you crying? He said, because your dad's gonna have another family. You don't need to cry for that. Like that. Hella cut and dry.
Oh my God.
And so I was like shocked because this is a man that I had grown up with. Like he's my cousins, the ones that are like my age, he's their dad. So we
Mm-hmm.
would have sleepovers if we did, and I would go to their house with him. So I saw him almost like another parent, like an extension of my parents, you know? And like he was laughing, like it wasn't even like I feel bad. It was like he was laughing.
Ugh.
Yeah. And so I was just like, okay, that happened. 3 o'clock, my dad finally comes and he gets like parks his truck like nothing, se sale del carro bien bañado, bien vestido. And I see him and my grandma was like, no, eso no es la manera de hacer las cosas, tienes que hacer las cosas bien, tienes que hablar con tu esposa, basically. It all clicked. What my mom was saying was right.
That was the moment that it like sunk through.
Yeah. And I grabbed my sister
Wow.
and I was like, we got to go home. She was like, no, but dad's here. I was like, I don't care. We got to go home. Let's go hurry up. I'll go with dad. We're going home. So I grabbed my sister, put her in the car, and my dad's like chasing after me. And he's like, ¿por qué hiciste eso? Like still yelling at me, still getting me in trouble. And I was like, ¿sabes qué? Ten los huevos suficientes para decirle a mi mamá que ya no quieres estar con ella. Si ya no eres feliz, sé hombre y dile las cosas enfrente. Like tell her straight up. I'm like, and on top of all of that, you need to talk to us too, because we're your daughters. We're part of your marriage with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just like, no me estás hablando así. Girl, I pushed him and I slammed the door shut, turned on the car, and I fucking took off. And I went home. And then my boyfriend and I, this was like very new in our relationship, but I had finally got my license, so we were gonna go on a date.
Mhm.
And so we went out to eat dinner and like completely like ignoring what just happened. We went out to dinner. We went to a movie. The second part of Twilight, I think, was coming out.
Mhm.
Mid Twilight, my phone starts ringing and my sister's like, "Hey, my dad's leaving." And I'm like, "Oh, don't worry, he's done it again." Almost like you, that glimmer of hope. Don't worry,
Mhm.
he's done it before, like he'll come back. Don't worry. They always do this because when I was younger, it was very common. And so I remember like finishing the movie and my boyfriend was like, "Hey, like if you want to go, we can go.
Mhm.
Like I know that you have stuff that at home that you want to deal with." And I was like, "No, I don't want to go home." And so when I come home, like all his stuff is gone. All his clothes is cleaned out of the drawers. He hadn't taken anything else but like his clothes from the drawers, which was mostly all his work stuff.
Mhm.
And then I remember talking to my sister, and my sister was so upset. And my little cousins were there, and they saw the entire thing. Like my cousins that are her age, they saw the entire thing.
Oh wow.
And one of them is my dad is her padrino. She was like, my padrino left. She's like crying with my with my sister.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, don't worry, he'll come back. My mom orders pizza for them, and we have like a little movie night, completely ignoring everything that happened. And so that was like Black Friday, like the day after Thanksgiving. And then comes the weekend. So like pasó el weekend, pasó the week, and Saturday I called my dad and I was like, hey, like, ¿por qué te fuiste? And he was just like, pues, he's like, pues yo ya voy a hacer vida acá. And I was like,
That's
not,
nonchalant.
and to his kid, like, I can't think of doing that to your kid. Like, I think of like having kids, and I'm like, how the fuck would you have the heart to do something like that, to talk like that to somebody? And so he was like, no, yo ya voy a hacer vida acá. And I was like, contéstame algo. Do you have kids with her? And he was like, girl, this to me, this part, this is like one of the phrases engraved in my heart, engraved like a tattoo. He was like, no, pero si Dios quiere, sí. A week later, a week and a day later, no, pero si Dios
Wow.
quiere, sí. Excuse me? Si
He
Dios quiere?
literally he literally said, "I don't want this family anymore. I'm
Literally,
gonna go get a new one."
literally.
It's fucked up how disposable he made
Oh, yeah.
you all feel,
Feel.
seem. I'm
Yeah.
sorry you went through that.
Oh, man. Thank you. It's something that, still kind of we go through today and like deal with. And so, anyways, he was just like, yo quiero que la conozcan, yo quiero que la respeten, this and that. And I was like,
Oh
absolutely not.
my
Yeah, girl.
god.
Uh-huh. I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
That's insane that
Mhm.
that's where his mind went. Like
Yeah.
automatically already like, you know what, we could do this again. Let's start over and let's
Yeah.
do this. Like meet my new
Mhm.
family now.
Yeah. And so come to find out years later that okay, she knew my dad was married. She knew who we
Mhm.
were. She knew my
Mhm.
mom because this girl worked at the car wash where my parents would go and wash their cars. She knew us. Everybody
She
told
had
her,
seen you,
yep. She saw my
seen
sister.
mhm.
She knew who my mom was, and they would tell her, don't listen to him. He's married. He has a wife. He has kids. And she's like believing him that he's a widow husband. But she knew. And I was like, no, you're stupid. Like you're stupid at that point. Like when she tried to explain to me, I was like, you're stupid.
You're a fucking bitch. That's what you
Yeah. I'm like, you're an idiot.
And you know what? My dad's mistress, she knew about us too. Even up to like the last couple of years I lived with my mom, cleaning out papers and
Mm-hmm.
cleaning out my desk and stuff, like because my dad used to come to me with hey, like look this up for me, or hey, look at this or whatever. And I ran into those papers only to see that at the very bottom, you know how like when you that it'll give you like a date, a name, an address, like everything at the very bottom, tiny print, right? Fine print. And her name was on it. And we're talking about way before, like maybe I was like 12, 13 years old.
Those for years.
Yes. I mean, who knows if my dad was creeping with some other women, but for sure
Yeah.
it was this person for many years because even when it first came out with my family about who he was with, this mistress, and another person came with her to my mom's house to look for her and then just yelling and telling her that they had been together, her and my dad had been together for about 7 years. And the only defense my dad had that day was that it was for five. O sea,
I'm sorry. How does that make that okay?
and I remember this day it's crazy because this day I had been sick for about 2 weeks and then finally I was feeling better, so I went to work that morning. And then my brother también, he was like, I'm gonna go to the flea market with my cousins, so he left. So the only ones at home were my mom, my dad, and my sister. So my sister le tocó escuchar when this woman shows up and starts yelling at my mom and saying things to stop calling and hanging up and looking for me because she thought I was the one who was calling her up, but it was actually my mom and my cousin
Oh,
who had
girl, square
found.
the fuck up. Square up because yes, it was me. That was me. I was calling. I showed up to the house. I was like, "Come out, come outside, bitch. I'm above legal age. Come outside. I
Did
want to
you
whoop
really?
your ass." Yes, I did.
Did she come out?
Nope, scary ass bitch. She would call my dad. She'd be like, "Tu hija está aquí afuera. Come out, bitch." She's not that much older than me. She's around my eldest sister's age.
Of course.
So we're around 10, less than 10 years apart.
Of course.
Yeah.
See, if this woman were to have came now with my sister being there, now that she's older, it would be like that for sure. But I think because I think honestly for me, I didn't have that mentality at the time because I was so confused, right? Because then,
Yeah.
okay, so she came, she told my mom all these things. And then because my cousin was on the phone with my mom, she called me at work to tell me, you need to get home because your dad's going to leave. And then I
Oh,
was like, "What are you
shoot.
talking about?" She goes, "I had nothing. I had no clue, no nothing, nada. It was just you need to come home because your dad's gonna leave." And she's bawling her eyes out. She's just crying over the phone, telling me I need to get home.
Your cousin.
Yeah, my cousin.
Uh,
So my cousin said, "So you need to get home. Your dad's been having an affair. He's about to leave." And so at that moment, I remember this had never happened to me before. This had never ever happened to me before. That in that moment that she said that, I dropped my phone and then I dropped to the ground. I lost complete feeling
oh
to
my
my legs
gosh.
and I lost it and I just started crying. Oh, sad. It wasn't even, it's crazy how that happened because never have I ever felt that way before. Never has that happened to me before. It was complete shock, complete lost feeling of my legs. I
Oh
fell to
my
the ground and I'm just crying.
gosh.
And during this time, I'm working for my uncle. So he comes over and he's like, "What's wrong? What's going on?" And I'm just crying. And I had to tell him, like, my dad's leaving. I have to go. He's like, "Well, you need to calm down before you leave because to drive."
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember like
I'd
crying and
never
crying.
heard this part of That's sorry. Okay.
And I remember like finally getting control of myself. And so then I was like, I have to call my dad. So then I called my dad. Why? I don't know. But I called him and I said, "Dad, what's going on?" And he's like, "I'm leaving." I have to leave and I'm sorry. And I was like, instead of me yelling, instead of saying why, all I could say was, I understand. I understand. I don't blame you. I understand. O
Oh,
sea, either I was fucking brainwashed or because I was so like about my dad. My dad was my light. My dad was like, I had him on such a high
your
pedestal that
idol. Yes, I
he
know what
was
you mean.
I believed everything he said and I was like, "Okay, dad," you know? And then we hung up and I left and I drove to the boyfriend I had at the time to his house and I like cried with him. And then at that point, my mom's calling, my dad's calling, worried about where I'm at because I haven't shown up to the
I've disappeared.
house.
I've fallen off the face of this earth. Thank you very
I'm
much. That's enough trauma for
missing.
me.
And so so finally I get my life together again after crying. So then I drove home and I passed by in front of my mom's house and my dad's truck isn't there anymore. So I kept driving and I just lost it because I'm like, he left. He really left. So I drive past my mom's house and I see that my dad's truck isn't there anymore. So I kept driving and I ended up going to a park. And at this point, I have so many missed calls from my mom and so many missed calls from my dad that I finally was like, okay, let me call my dad. And I said, I'm at the park. He's like, okay, I'll be right there. And so then I called my mom and I told her the same thing. They
Mhm.
both show up. My dad is very like that frio, like he's just numb, you could tell, right?
Mhm.
And he's just looking at me and my mom gets there and she's like she does this whole mama bear thing that I think
Yeah.
it's rare to see it. Not that it's a bad thing or that my mom wasn't nurturing, but it was super, super protective, nurturing,
Yeah.
like that overcame her because she came to like almost like pick me up and like scoop me up and and tell me everything's okay, like we're okay, you're okay, like let's go home. And I'm so fucking confused because I'm thinking, did I imagine everything that just happened? Like, I don't understand. And my dad says nothing. And so they scooped me up and we went back to the house. And it's crazy how vivid I remember that I had these like scissors because I did a lot of arts and crafts when I was younger too. I had scissors next to my bed. And tell me why I look over y ya no estaban. I don't know if my parents or if my mom thought I would do something.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if she thought I was at a bad mental
Oh
state
my
or
gosh.
I was gonna do something or what, but it was so much confusion for about like good 2, 3 months. And I remember one morning I woke up to my dad crying on top of me. And he's just crying and telling me, I'm so sorry, please forgive me, I'm so sorry, crying. And mind you, this is still during a time I have no idea what this means. I don't know what you did. I don't know. But here I am, brainwashed thinking,
It's
I forgive you.
because,
It's okay. It's okay.
yeah, and it's because our dads, from what I connect with you a lot is that our dads would love bomb us a lot when
Mm-hmm.
we were kids and growing
Super
it.
affectionate.
Yeah,
Super, yeah.
very much what our moms weren't.
Yeah.
So I can understand it being confusing.
Yeah. It was super confusing.
That's
He was just,
insane. So he was
yeah.
like over you
He was
crying,
just, and I'm
apologizing.
like petting him because I'm confused, but I'm also like, Dad, it's okay. Don't worry. It's okay. So out here I am fucking forgiving my father for the shit he did.
Here
I
I
didn't even
am
know.
being a therapist for you while I'm going through my own shit.
And I didn't even know. I didn't even know. I didn't even understand. And it wasn't until like months passed, it clicked. And I was angry. And I
You were
think I
going through the stages of grief.
it really was like that.
I hear all the time that some people don't just go through the stages of grief when somebody passes away,
I've realized that.
and
And it's
that
very true.
you mourn when something like this happens,
Mhm.
you're mourning the idolization of the parent that you had. So in a sense, it is like
Sí,
losing your dad.
because ahí se rompe el imagen
Yeah.
of who you thought
Mm-hmm.
was this magical person in your
Because
life.
for me, yo no sé si like you think of it, but for me, it was always like my mom was the bad one. My
Mhm.
mom le buscaba
Mhm.
pleito a my dad. My
Mhm.
dad was always okay. He was happy, pero ella era la mala.
There
And
was a certain
he
point.
would
Mhm.
he knew that that's what was going on, and he would feed into it. Girl, he'd
Mm.
be like, "Si tú no la quieres, la haces menos." Yeah, like it was intense. So like when he left me with her,
Damn.
oh girl, I remember being like, I called him one time and I was like, yo no puedo creer que me hayas dejado con ella.
It's crazy because that's exactly what happened with me.
Hmm.
My I would call him to vent about her, and instead of
Yeah.
him trying to help me like mend things with her, no, his response was, "No le hagas caso. Tú haz lo tuyo. Ella está mal, está loca. No le hagas caso, no le escuches. Tú haz lo tuyo. Ay, tu mamá está mal."
Instead of being like, oh, it makes me so mad because they don't realize how damaging that is.
It was, yeah, because I hated her. I like
Yeah.
as terrible as it may sound, even now knowing the way my mom is and the way she is, like I can't even say I hate her. I don't
Yeah.
not at all. But
Hmm.
there was to a point that my dad had me very well manipulated
Yeah.
that I
Same.
hated her.
Same.